mysterious in so many ways. And I just thank the universe for allowing me to cross paths with a wonderful teacher, a wonderful mentor, a wonderful spirit, and just a wonderful all-around guy. Here he is, Dr. Paul Leon Masters.
Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful, wonderful evening, and it's going to get now so much better. It's going to get better because in a moment we're going to have Reverend Dr. Della Reese join me here on the stage. And that's what so many of you have been waiting for and anticipating in your trips here, so we look forward to it. I'm going to ask Dr. Dick Codwell to come up and to give a brief summary of why we're giving this Lifetime Achievement Award to Reverend Dr. Della Reese. Here we are.
It's hard to be brief talking about Reverend Della because she has done so much for so long. Della Reese is a name that is synonymous with entertainment par excellence. Starting her career as a singer, she developed a style in romantic ballads and hard-driving songs that utilized her unique blend of jazz, blues, gospel textures and phrases that to this day makes for a sound that is unmistakable. Della Reese. Dr. Reese was born in Detroit, Michigan, and began singing in church when she was 6 years old. Throughout her formative years, she was deeply involved in gospel singing, and at age 13 was hired by the late Mahalia Jackson to sing with her group. I feel compelled to add just a little personal note. I have an iPod, many of you do, and I use this to listen to music when I do my daily walks, and I have my music in categories, one of which I call inspirational. My favorite song on that list is His Eye is on the Sparrow by Reverend Della. Nobody's ever done it better. I never knew I'd meet you. While in college, she formed her own female gospel group, the Meditation Singers, which is listed in Who's Who of Gospel Music. And when I got that in the bio that Franklin was so nice to send me, I put it down and I raced upstairs to my stack of CDs, and guess what? I have a CD of the Meditation Singers. And I had listened to it so often and never read the liner notes and never knew you were on it. To help her support her family, she worked at clerical jobs, barbering, truck driving, and taxi driving. But she was destined to be a singer and started recording after she moved to New York City. And in 1959, she recorded her biggest hit, Don't You Know, of which I wore out more than 145. That same year, Dr. Paul Masters started his ministry, which led to the Worldwide International Metaphysical Ministry. Della Reese appeared on every major TV variety show, including more than 20 appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show, and she was the first female to host The Tonight Show. And for you Oprah fans, you might not know that Dr. Della was the first black woman to host her own talk show. Television saw a lot of Dr. Della. She did guest spots in dramatic, comedic, and musical roles on a long list of shows. But even people too young to remember that era discovered her wonderful acting talent as the star of the hit show Touched by an Angel, which ran for 9 seasons and is still in demand on DVD and in syndication. Her work was honored in 1994 when she received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Although she certainly hasn't given up singing, she now also spends time writing. Her autobiography, Angels Along the Way, was released in 1997, and The God Inside Me was one of the best-selling children's books in 1999. She recently co-produced an inspirational CD, Give It to God, and her CD, Conversation with My Grandson, produced by her husband Franklin Lett, was an eye-parroting media award winner. So it's not surprising to me that all of this led her to the ministry. As an ordained minister, she gives what she calls life lessons to capacity audiences at her church in Los Angeles. 2 months ago, she officiated at the wedding of Mark Burnett and Roma Downey, who appeared with her in Touched by an Angel. She received her doctorate from the University of Metaphysics, and we are so pleased to have her and Franklin with us tonight. Dr. Masters.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to have you give the warmest of all welcomes to Reverend Dr. Della Reese. Della, you are a combination of head and heart. You really are. I had met Della for the first time in person here this afternoon, and I am very, very impressed that whatever any of you feel towards her is the truest and the most real. She is what she teaches. And that is the biggest compliment that anyone can pay a minister and a person, and that's what you are. And so it takes and gives me great, great pleasure to present to you our 2007 Lifetime Achievement Award. It reads, presented to Dr. Della Reese for her contributions to the spirituality of this planet, and I really believe that that statement is 1,000% true. She deserves every recognition of each and every one of us. Bless you, Della.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. God bless you. I love you. I sure do appreciate being here. This is quite an honor, and I'm very grateful. I listened to them tell you all of the recorded things about me, and I thought maybe you'd like a little dirt. Huh? Yeah. A little dirt? Yeah. Okay. I was born July the 6th, 1931. Almost 76. I heard you going, 26. 6th of July, I'll be 76. And the first magnificent thing I ever did was to be born to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Thad Early. My mother was a personal friend of God's, and I'm so serious. And I thought she was a witch for many years. Well, you see, she talked to herself all the time. Is that all right, Father? Wouldn't be nobody in there but her. And I would see her, and she would say, well, if that's what you want me to do. My father, on the other hand, was a player. he would work. He was a marvelous provider. He poured steel, literally poured steel for 37 years. And when he retired, they got a machine because they said that wasn't work for a human being to do. And he would work 5 days a week, no matter what. He gave me my work ethic. He worked no matter what snow. I'm from Detroit, be blizzards, he didn't care. Day to go to work, he'd go to work. But on Friday, he would come home and he would take this 2-hour bath and he would do his nails and get the corns off his feet and clip them toenails. And he would put on his good suit and he would tie his tie, and this tie had to have this particular crook in it. And if he did, he might tie it 6 or 7 times because it had to just sit that perfect way. And then he would put on his hat and it had to sit on the side just a certain way. He would have already given Mother the money for all the bills and everything. He would have given me my money to car fare to school and all of that. And then he would leave home on Friday evening. And on Sunday afternoon, my mother there was a vacant lot in the back of our house. My mother would be coming across the vacant lot humming whatever they had sung in church. Jesus, 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 Jesus. And my father would be coming across the vacant lot His hat would come home every Tuesday. We found Mr. Rich's hat, Miss Nellie. My mother says that when I was born, I didn't cry, I sang. And I have always loved to sing. And so we lived in this apartment building, and it was what you call a shotgun apartment because it had a long hall to it, and there were bedrooms off the hall, and at the bottom was the living room and the kitchen. And my room was in a little corner over there. And so we had this skylight that went up through the bathrooms. Somehow I found out that if I sang in the skylight, my voice got big. And I liked for my voice to be big. But I didn't know too many songs, so I sang what I did know. Miss Louise and Mr. Jack meet in the soda fountain in the back. And Mr. Jimmy don't know where they go when they leave the soda fountain. I know. Mr. Jones has a bottle behind the furnace in the basement. If you can't find him, go down in the basement, buy the bottle, and you'll find Mr. Jones. Right? Now, this is going in every apartment. I didn't know I was a troubadour. Mr. Jones happened to be the manager of the apartment building. Mr. Jones told my mama, if you don't get her someplace else to sing, you're going to have to move. And so my mother, she nailed up the bathroom window, snatched me up, and took me to church. And they were marvelous men, Dr. Barnes and Reverend Travitt. And they knew that children did not understand what was happening in the 11 o'clock service. That's why they fidgeted and made so much noise and went to sleep and everything. So he decided, Dr. Barnes, that he would have a young people's church. And the young men who were studying to be ministers would be our pastors. And I became the choir directress because I could remember the lyric and I didn't go off pitch. Those were my qualifications to be. And I was 6, and then we sang one Sunday a month. But on the 5th Sunday of every month, we sang all the songs. And I had all the leads to all the songs that we sang, and I became famous. And I was famous there for 7 years. And then one day Mahalia came to sing with us. And there was, I'm going to say this nicely, there was a very healthy lady singing with Mahalia, and she was a lyric soprano. At that time, I was a lyric soprano too. And we didn't have any air conditioning. We had fans that the funeral homes gave us that we fan with, and you don't know about that, huh? Oh, well, we had it. I don't know what y'all had, but that's what we had. And so it was in the summertime, and it was hot in this little church, and we were fanning, all of us, but it wasn't doing any good, and the very healthy lady fainted. And they got a doctor out of the audience, and they took her to Dr. Barnes's office, and the doctor examined her, and the doctor said, the lady is 6 months pregnant. And her husband said, well, Mahalia, she can't go any further, because at that time, which time is in the past, but at that time, black people had a lot of trouble getting any medical service in the South at all. And this man said, I'm not sending my wife there for that kind of conditions. So when this job is over here today, I'm taking her back to Chicago. So Reverend Barnes and Reverend Travitt, it was summer, I was out of school, went to my mother and asked my mother if I could go with Mahalia on these 3 jobs that she had already contracted for. And so my mother said, let me talk to God about it. So remember this shotgun apartment. Now, my mother is over here saying, Father, I want to do what is the best thing to do. I won't do anything until I hear from you. Tell me what you want me to do. And I'm over in the corner. I will not do anything I did this year. I will be so good, God, you won't even know me. I'll do all my lessons. And my mother saying, tell me what to do. And I'm saying, please tell her, Father. Tell her. Tell her. So finally, God told her. Now I'm very happy. I'm going to be away from home. I'm going to help this old lady Mahalia sing and try to get some good for her. That's my thing I'm going to do to bless her. And I won't be around my mother, and I'm going to party down like my daddy. Well, see, I learned very young how to live. The way to live is to be a good friend of God's and have as much fun as you can. So that's it. That's it. That's all of it. And so when we got ready to leave, my mother got all up in Mahalia's face. She said, I wouldn't let my child go with just anybody. I've raised a good child here. But I know you're a God-loving Christian woman. And I'm going to let her go with you, but I'm expecting you to bring me back a better child than you take away. Well, Mahalia took that to heart. Mahalia was worse than my mother ever. I was praying to go home to my mama. Lord, I want to go home to my mama. And I was out there with her for those 3 engagements. And then she asked me to continue to sing with her. And she worried me because I would sing, and I found out, I don't know how, but if you hit a note and it's high enough, whether it's a good note or a bad note, it'll make somebody do like that. Huh? I don't know how I found that out, but I did. So I use whatever I can. So I would jump down off of here, and I'd go and run around there, and run around there. Then I would sit down next to Mahalia like, follow that. But she wouldn't get out of the seat. She would sit there in the seat, and all the while I had been singing and oohing and carrying on, she had been encouraging me. Sing, baby, sing, baby. She wouldn't get out of the seat, and she would begin. People jumping out the balcony. Now, I have never been stupid. I want to know how she do that. Because I had just hit my note 6 or 7 times running around out there. And I began to watch her. And we always had to pray before we did anything, any singing at all. And we would pray, and then it would be back to the hair and the lipstick. And she would find a corner away from us. And she would sit there until time for us to sing. And then she would go out, and she would be just so full of the Spirit of God. You could not resist her. It was impossible to resist Mahalia when she sang, because she was so full of the Spirit of God. And I watched her. And she was not the kind of person who would say, now this is what you do and that's what you do. But I kept watching her, and I noticed every night she went to that corner. So one night she went to the corner, I went to the corner too. I want to know what's in the corner. I go to the corner, and she's having this prayer. Just between her and looking faced into the corner, she's having this prayer. And when it was over that night and we were in the room alone, I asked her, I said, how do you do that? People can't seem to resist you. And she taught me the art of communication. As within, so without. She said, if you don't feel it, you'll never make anybody feel it. She said, you run around and sing and hit notes. You ought to get to God and let him sing through you. And one night I tried it, and it was good. I've been doing it ever since because it's good. It's so good. It's so good. I've had a marvelous life. God has blessed me tremendously. He has seen to the marvelousness of my life. And I've had sometimes that one would not think wonderful, but turned out to be fantastic. I was doing the Johnny Carson show, and I had just met this fox. Wonderful thing, a wonderful thing. And I just knew that this was the thing right here that I had been looking for, because I had asked God. I had prayed for those of you who need somebody. This was my prayer. I said, Father, I choose badly. I accept that I choose badly. But I need and want someone to love me and care for me, someone who can love me as much as I'm capable of loving them. And so I met this fox, and I'm doing the Johnny Carson show. He's going to take me off on a holiday to Tahoe. Now, I don't like snow at all. I'm from Detroit. I learned about snow as a child, and it never gets any better. It's always worse. And so I'm doing Carson's show and getting ready for this big holiday, and my brain exploded. I had an aneurysm to rupture in my brain while I was doing the Johnny Carson show. And I was showing off. When you really can sing, you can sing with the bass fiddle. But you really have to be able to sing to sing with the bass fiddle. The guitar gives you a chord. The piano gives you a chord. A saxophone can give you an introductory line where you can find your pitch. But the bass gives you rhythm. Get in there if you can. But I wanted the world to know how wonderful I was. And so I'm singing with the bass fiddle. And I made such a jerk. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I said, into your hands I commit my spirit. And I fell to the floor during the Johnny Carson show. And they took me across the street to a hospital. And they began to examine me, and they looked at me at my size. And immediately they knew that I was obese and I had whatever came with being obese. And they examined all of that, and I didn't have any of that. Then they decided that I was a black entertainer, so I had probably OD'd on some drug. And so they started looking for that, and I didn't have any of that in my system. So now they don't know what to do, so they pick me up and take me to another hospital. They don't want to be responsible for Della Reese dying in their hospital. So they took me to another hospital. When I got to that hospital, they took the same ideas and the same precautions, the same examinations, and they did not find anything either. And finally, Franklin, who was my fiance at the time, the fox I'm talking about, called our doctor. And Dr. Lavitt came, and they tell me, because I was not aware of it, I was unconscious for an awful long time, a night and a day. And they tell me Dr. Levitt said, this woman is my patient, and I examine her often. She's not on drugs. She's not too fat. Something else is wrong with this woman. And so he then moved me to another hospital. So that in this last hospital, they had the machines necessary to see what was wrong with me. And they found out that it was an aneurysm had ruptured in my brain. I want you to understand that this plaque is wonderful. The lessons you have taught me are wonderful. This school is wonderful. But I want to tell you that I know what I know because of what God has done for me. You understand what I'm saying to you? So now, I have the most negative doctor I have ever met in my life. And this man came into my room every morning to explain to me why I had to die. Oh, yes, he did. He came in, he has statistics. 4 out of 7. 5 out of 9. Huh? And I was, if he said 4 out of 7, I said, I'm one of the 3, I'm one of the 3, I'm one of the 3. And so when I would do that, he, of course, thought I would really snap. He didn't know I was canceling him out. Anyway, finally he comes to me and he says, we're going to have to give you an arteriogram. I never heard that word before. And I said, what is that? He said, we're going to have to go from your groin to your brain with a tube and inject a dye so that we'll know exactly where the spot is when we open your skull. He said, now the thing is, we got to find somebody who knows how to do this. I jumped up, find somebody. What you mean, find somebody? You ain't got nobody here? You ain't sticking nothing in me. I said to Franklin, if you let this man cut me and any of his negativity fall in my head, you better hope I die, because if I get up, I'm killing you. Easy, baby, Franklin, easy, baby. It's going to be all right. Easy, baby, easy. I don't eat meat, and so Franklin went across the street to get some vegetables for me. And I, not out loud, within myself, I prayed, Father, I need for you to tell me what to do, because I don't know what to do. I don't even understand what they're saying. I don't understand the language. And the door opened to the hospital room. And this man came in with operation garb on, he had a little hat on, and the green suit and the boots over his shoes. And he stuck his head in the door. I love my fans. My fans have fed me since I was 6 years old. So I always got time for the fans. And so I thought he was a fan. And he said, "May I come in, Miss Reese?" I said, "Please come in." He came in and he sat down. And he said, "I was passing your room, and something," that's what they always call God. They either call him something or out of the blue. Those are names. So he said, "Something told me to stop by your room." He said, "I'm from arteriograms. And I thought I should speak to you because sometimes the patients don't understand the language." I just prayed this prayer within myself. Huh? He said, "I know exactly what I'm doing." He says, "And if you don't happen to get me, and you get Doctor," he named him, he says, "he taught me everything I know, but he didn't teach me everything he knows. So you're in good hands, Miss Reese, whether you get me or Dr. whatever his name is." So we only need one thing from you. And I said, "What is that?" He said, "You'll have to be still." And my favorite Bible verse is, "Be still and know that I am God." I said, "Don't worry about it. I got to be still. You get the injection going up here." I don't know what happened. I don't know when they took me there. I don't know what they did. I don't know anything about it at all. But he did exactly what needed to be done. Now it's time for me to have surgery. I've been there 2 weeks waiting to have surgery, and I haven't had surgery. And so finally, my oldest son is a psychiatrist. And I said to him, "You're going to have to get some kind of information for me, because I just can't keep laying up in the room dark. I like light. They had all the shades pulled down, and they talked like I wasn't there. She's this, and she did that, and I wonder if she did it." And I hated the wheeze. "Are we ready to eat?" I don't know if you're ready to eat or not, but I'm hungry. You know what I mean? That kind of, so anyway. My son took the x-rays to UCLA because Sandy, thank God, was afraid to operate on me. And they took the x-rays to UCLA. And the gentleman said to my son and to Franklin, "If he can't operate with these x-rays, I wouldn't let him touch my mother." He said, "There's nothing wrong with these x-rays at all." And so they came back and told me. And he recommended 2 doctors. One of them was in Switzerland, and one of them was in London, Ontario. And they felt like to go to Switzerland would take me 14 hours. And Franklin would have to administer by mouth the medication to keep the blood from crossing over. Because there was a spot like this. Now, I know you ain't gonna believe this, but I don't care. Blood is a circulatory thing. It means that the blood left here, did whatever it had to do, came on around and came back up and stopped right here and went back down, and did that for 2 weeks. If it had ever crossed that spot, I would not be speaking to you at this moment. I would be in wherever it is I'm going. But they took me to Dr. Charles Drake, a marvelous human being, in London, Ontario. And they gave him the x-rays. And he looked at them and he said, "Well, you've got a normal female type aneurysm." And I said, "Well, good. I didn't want a whole lot of man stuff up in my brain." And he laughed. And that was the first laughter I had heard from anybody. And so he said, "Well, we'll go into surgery." I arrived there, hear this now, at 11 o'clock at night. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I met Dr. Drake. I did not know it at the time, but at 11 o'clock, the morning of the night that I went there, a clip that Dr. Drake had designed and was being worked on by his student in Japan, Osaka, Japan. And the clip came at 11 o'clock in the morning. I came at 11 o'clock at night. At 7 o'clock the next morning, the clip and I were united, and part of me is made in Japan. Before the surgery, he leaned down to my ear and he says, I know I don't do this by myself. God holds my hand. I say, you can cut me any way you want to cut me. It's all right with me. And they rolled me. This is a picture that'll be in my sight forever. My daughter was still on the planet then. And my daughter and my son and this man who was my fiance and is now my husband on a 27-year honeymoon. Yes. They were looking. They rolled me on this gurney, and they were all around the head of the gurney. And my son was saying, I have checked this man out. My son's a psychiatrist. I have checked him out. He's a very good doctor. He's got good, he's going to be all right, Mother. Don't have to be, I got everything controlled. Don't worry about that. And Franklin was saying, I want you to come out of here, baby, because I love you, and I need you, and I want you. And my daughter said, Mama, you got to get well, because we got to go shopping. And they rolled me into this room. And they could only go as far as the door. And they had this kind of window in the doorway, and they crowded their faces in this little space. And they were all crying, but they were smiling, and the tears were running down of their eyes. They couldn't go any further, but God went in with me. And I sang all the time, and I began to sing. God is so wonderful to me. God is so wonderful to me. Can't you see? He's everything I have hoped for, and everything I need. God is so wonderful to me. And the anesthesiologist came to give me a shot. He said, don't be nervous. It's going to be all right. And there's a nurse there training with Dr. Drake from India. And he's saying, now don't be quiet, now be quiet. She said, will you let her sing? I've seen her on Dr. Schuler's show, and she liked to sing. Just give her a shot and let her sing. And he gave me the shot, and he told me to count backwards from 100. And I remember saying 100, and I don't remember anything else. And 10 and a half hours after that, I woke up in intensive care, and I started where I stopped. He's everything I have hoped for. I'm a witness. He's everything you will ever, ever, ever need. God is so wonderful to me. That was in 1979. And he gets better all the time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for staying with me all these years. God bless you.
I think all of you deserve to see the fox.
There's the fox. There's the fox.
Rick, where's the fox?
There's the fox.
Rick, there's the fox.
There's the fox. There's the fox.